I'm 31 years old, work as an elementary school teacher in Tampa, Florida, and make about $47,000 a year. I have a 6-year-old daughter named Emma with my ex-husband David. We divorced 2 years ago after a 7-year marriage that had become increasingly difficult. David was always possessive, but it got worse after Emma was born. He'd question me about where I went, who I talked to, check the mileage on my car. When I finally filed for divorce, he fought me on everything. Custody, the house, money. It took a year to finalize. The custody arrangement we settled on was 50-50. Emma would spend 1 week with me, 1 week with David. It wasn't ideal, but the judge said it was fair since we both worked and were fit parents. What the judge didn't see was how David used Emma as a way to maintain control over me. He'd text me constantly during my weeks with her, demanding to know where we were, what we were doing, accusing me of being a bad mother if I didn't respond immediately. This all happened in January 2025. It was my week with Emma. On Monday, I took her to school in the morning and went to work. That afternoon, I picked her up, and we went to Target to buy supplies for a school project. As we were walking back to my car in the parking lot, my iPhone buzzed. I had Emma's hand in mine, so I waited until we got to the car to check it. The notification read, "Airtag detected near you. This AirTag has been moving with you for some time." My first thought was confusion. Then I realized what it meant. David was tracking me. I made the AirTag play a sound, expecting it to come from my car or my purse, but the beeping was coming from Emma's backpack. Emma looked up at me. "Mommy, what's that sound?" I knelt down and opened her backpack. Inside, tucked into a side pocket with her water bottle, was an AirTag. My hands started shaking. David had put a tracking device in our daughter's backpack. He'd been tracking me through Emma. "It's nothing, sweetie," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Let's get home." I drove home with my mind racing. David had been tracking me for who knows how long. Every time I had Emma, he knew exactly where we were, not just the general area, but specific locations. Every store, every restaurant, every park. Once Emma was in bed that night, I called my lawyer, Rebecca. I explained what I'd found. "That's incredibly concerning," she said. "He's using your daughter to surveil you. That could be grounds for modifying the custody arrangement. Can I go to the police?" "Absolutely. File a report. Document everything. This is stalking, and it's also potentially harmful to Emma. No child should be used as a surveillance tool." I called the Tampa Police Department and filed a report. An officer came to my house and took the AirTag as evidence. He said they'd investigate and contact David. The next morning, David called me. He was furious. "You called the cops on me? Are you serious? You put a tracking device in Emma's backpack. You've been stalking me? I have a right to know where my daughter is. You have a right to know she's safe. You don't have a right to track my every move. I'll see you in court," he said, and hung up. He was right about that. 2 weeks later, I was back in family court. Rebecca filed an emergency motion to modify custody based on David's use of the AirTag to surveil me. David's lawyer argued that he'd placed the AirTag in Emma's backpack for safety reasons, so he'd know where she was in case of an emergency. He claimed he had no interest in tracking me, only Emma. The judge didn't buy it. "Mr. Patterson," the judge said, "if your concern was your daughter's safety, you could have communicated with Ms. Patterson about her whereabouts. Placing a tracking device without the other parent's knowledge or consent is an invasion of privacy and constitutes harassment. I'm ordering you to cease all tracking of Ms. Patterson immediately." The judge also ordered David to attend co-parenting classes in anger management. Our custody arrangement stayed 50-50, but the judge said if there were any further incidents, we'd be back in court to reconsider. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, during David's week with Emma, I got another notification. "AirTag detected near you." I was at work, in my classroom. The beeping was coming from my purse. I searched through it and found an AirTag tucked into the lining of an inside pocket. Someone had cut a small slit in the fabric and pushed it inside. If I hadn't heard the beeping, I never would have found it. David was the only person with access to my purse recently. He'd picked up Emma from my house on Sunday evening. I'd set my purse on the kitchen counter while I got Emma's things ready. He must have slipped it in then. I called Detective Morrison, who'd been assigned to my case. She said to bring the AirTag to the station. "This is a clear violation of the judge's order," she said. He was explicitly told to stop tracking you. We're going to arrest him. David was arrested that evening. He was charged with stalking and violation of a court order. At the arraignment, his lawyer argued that the Airtag must have accidentally ended up in my purse, that David had no knowledge of how it got there. The judge set bail at $5,000 and ordered David to have no contact with me except through a third party for custody exchanges. Rebecca immediately filed another emergency motion to modify custody. This time, she asked for sole physical custody with David having only supervised visitation. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. During those 3 weeks, my parents handled all custody exchanges with David. I didn't see him or speak to him, but I kept getting notifications. Airtag detected near you. 3 more times over those 3 weeks, each time in a different place. 1 in my car, attached under the dashboard, 1 in my gym bag, 1 in Emma's jacket pocket. Each time I documented it and reported it to Detective Morrison. Each time, David claimed he had no idea how the Airtag got there. At the custody hearing, the judge reviewed all the evidence. The original Airtag in Emma's backpack, the 4 subsequent Airtags, the police reports, David's arrest record. Mr. Patterson, the judge said, your behavior demonstrates a pattern of harassment and an inability to respect boundaries. You've used your daughter as a tool to surveil your ex-wife, and even after being explicitly ordered to stop, you continued. This is not the behavior of a parent who puts his child's best interests first. The judge granted me sole physical custody. David was given supervised visitation every other weekend, supervised by a court-appointed professional at a visitation center. He was also ordered to complete a domestic violence intervention program. David appealed the decision, but the appellate court upheld it. That was 6 months ago? David still sees Emma at the visitation center every other weekend. I've had no contact with him since the final hearing, but I still check my car every day. I still search my belongings for Airtags. I still get anxious when my phone buzzes with any notification. Because the thing about being stalked is that it changes you. Even when the threat is gone, the fear remains. I've had to explain to Emma, in age-appropriate terms, why she doesn't see Daddy as much anymore. Why exchanges happen with Grandma and Grandpa instead of me. Why there are new rules. She doesn't understand it all, and maybe that's for the best. But I worry about how this will affect her as she grows up. How it will shape her understanding of relationships, of trust, of boundaries. David took something from both of us. From me, he took my sense of safety. From Emma, he took the stability of having both parents actively involved in her life. And all because he couldn't let go. Couldn't accept that our marriage was over. Couldn't respect that I had a right to live my life without being watched. The Airtag was just a tool, but in David's hands, it became a weapon. A way to maintain control long after the relationship had ended. I've started dating again, cautiously, but I'm hyper-aware now. I watch for red flags I might have missed before. Possessiveness, jealousy, the need to always know where I am. Because I know firsthand how quickly love can turn into obsession, how easily someone can use technology to control and terrorize. The scars David left aren't physical, they're psychological, and they're permanent. Every time my phone buzzes, my heart rate spikes. Every time I see a notification, I brace myself. Because even though David can't reach me now, the damage is done. And that's something no court order can fix. I'm 28 years old, work as a graphic designer in Portland, Oregon, and make about $58,000 a year. I broke up with my boyfriend of 3 years, Marcus, in November 2024. The relationship had become toxic. He was controlling, constantly checking my phone, asking where I was, who I was with. I finally had enough and ended it. Marcus didn't take it well. For the first week after the breakup, he texted me constantly, apologizing, begging for another chance, saying he'd change. I blocked his number. Then he started messaging me on Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn. I blocked him on everything. After about 2 weeks, the messages stopped. I thought he'd finally accepted it and moved on. I was wrong. In early December, I started noticing his car and places I went. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Portland's not that big. But it kept happening. I'd see his black Honda Civic in the Target parking lot when I went grocery shopping, outside my gym, near the coffee shop I went to on weekends. Each time I'd look for him, but I never saw him get out of the car or approach me. just his car parked somewhere nearby. I told my best friend Sarah about it. She said I should document it and call the police if it continued. So I started taking photos whenever I saw his car. Then one day in mid-December, I was driving home from work when my iPhone buzzed. I was at a red light, so I checked it. The notification read, "Airtag detected near you. This Airtag has been moving with you for some time." My stomach dropped. I knew immediately it was Marcus. I pulled into a parking lot and made the Airtag play a sound. Beeping came from under my driver's seat. I reached under and felt around. My fingers touched something small and round, stuck to the metal frame with what felt like heavy-duty tape. I pulled it off. An Airtag, white, circular, with the Apple logo on one side. I sat there staring at it, my hands shaking. Marcus had been tracking me. That's how he knew where I was. That's why his car kept showing up at the same places. I called the police. 2 officers met me at the parking lot about 20 minutes later. I showed them the Airtag, explained about the breakup, showed them the photos I'd taken of Marcus's car at various locations. "How long has the Airtag been tracking you?" one officer asked. I checked my phone. The notification said it had been moving with me for some time. I tapped for more details. It showed a map with my movements over the past several days, everywhere I'd been. Work, home, the gym, grocery stores, restaurants. "At least a few days," I said. "Maybe longer?" The officers took the Airtag as evidence and gave me a case number. They said they'd contact Marcus and investigate. "In the meantime," the female officer said, "check your car thoroughly for any other tracking devices and document any contact he makes with you." I drove home and immediately searched my entire car. Under seats, in the glove box, in the trunk, under the hood, around the wheel wells. I didn't find anything else. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Marcus tracking my every move. How long had the Airtag been there? Had he placed it before or after the breakup? The next day, Detective Chen called me. She'd been assigned to my case. She said they'd spoken with Marcus. "He admitted to placing the Airtag," she said. "He claims he did it because he was worried about your safety and wanted to make sure you were okay." "That's bullshit. He was stalking me?" "I agree. We're moving forward with charges, stalking and unlawful surveillance. But I need to warn you, he might escalate now that he knows we're involved." "What do you mean, escalate?" "Sometimes when stalkers feel like they're losing control, they become more aggressive. Be vigilant. Vary your routine. Make sure someone knows where you are." I thanked her and hung up, feeling more anxious than before. For the next few days, I was hyper-vigilant. I checked my car every morning before driving it. I looked over my shoulder constantly. I told my coworkers about the situation so they'd be aware. On the 4th day after finding the first Airtag, I got another notification. "Airtag detected near you." I was at work, sitting at my desk. The beeping was coming from my purse. I dumped everything out onto my desk: wallet, keys, lip gloss, gum, hand sanitizer, and at the bottom, tucked into an inner pocket, was another Airtag. I felt like I was going to be sick. He'd done it again. But how? When? I tried to remember the last few days. Where had I left my purse unattended? At my desk at work? No, I kept it with me? At home? Maybe, but Marcus didn't have access to my apartment anymore. I'd changed the locks after the breakup. Then I remembered. 2 days ago, I'd gone to happy hour with coworkers after work. I'd left my purse at the table while I went to the bathroom. Had Marcus been there? Had he followed me and waited for a moment when my purse was unattended? I called Detective Chen immediately. She said to bring the Airtag to the station. When I got there, she reviewed the tracking data. The Airtag had only been active for about 2 days, which matched when I'd been at the bar. "He was there," I said. "He followed me to the bar and put it in my purse." Detective Chen pulled up security footage from the bar, and there he was, Marcus, sitting at the bar, watching our table. When I got up to go to the bathroom, he'd walked over, quickly opened my purse, dropped the Airtag in, and walked away. The whole thing took maybe 10 seconds. "We have him on camera," Detective Chen said. "This is clear evidence of stalking. We're issuing a warrant for his arrest." Marcus was arrested the next day at his apartment. He was charged with 2 counts of stalking and 2 counts of unlawful surveillance. But the story doesn't end there. While Marcus was out on bail waiting for trial, I started getting texts from unknown numbers. "You ruined my life. I did everything for you, and this is how you repay me? You're going to regret this. Each time I got a message, I forwarded it to Detective Chen. She said they were trying to trace the numbers, but Marcus was likely using burner phones. Then one night, I was at home watching TV when I heard something outside my apartment door. A soft thud, like something being set down. I looked through the peephole. Nobody was there. I waited a few minutes, then slowly opened the door. There was a box on my doormat, small, wrapped in brown paper, with my name written on it in marker. I didn't touch it. I called the police. 2 officers came and carefully opened the box. Inside was an Airtag and a note. The note said, "You can find me, but I'll always find you." The Airtag was registered to Marcus's Apple ID. He'd left it there as a message, a threat. Detective Chen called me the next morning. We're revoking his bail. He's going back into custody. And we're adding witness intimidation to the charges. Marcus was arrested again and held without bail until trial. The trial was 4 months later. I had to testify about the Airtags, the stalking, the threatening messages. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, sitting in that courtroom with Marcus staring at me from the defense table. He was convicted on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 3 years in prison and issued a permanent restraining order. That was 8 months ago. Marcus is in prison, and I've tried to move on with my life. But I still check my car every day. I still scan my belongings for Airtags. I still look over my shoulder in parking lots. Because even though Marcus is locked up, I know that in less than 3 years, he'll be out. And I don't know what he'll do when that day comes. The technology was supposed to help people find lost items, keys, wallets, luggage. But in the wrong hands, it became a tool for control, for stalking, for terrorizing someone who just wanted to be free. I'll never feel completely safe again. Every notification on my phone makes my heart race. Every unfamiliar car in a parking lot makes me nervous. That's what Marcus took from me. Not just 3 years of my life in a bad relationship, but my sense of security, my peace of mind. And that's something I'll never get back. I'm 23 years old, recently graduated from University of Colorado Boulder, with a degree in marketing, and I'm currently working at a startup in Denver, making about $45,000 a year. I moved to Denver 3 months ago to start this job and to get away from my ex-boyfriend Tyler. Tyler and I dated for 2 years during college. He was my first serious relationship, and for the first year things were good. But during our second year together, he became increasingly controlling. He'd get upset if I went out with friends without him. He'd check my phone when I wasn't looking. He'd show up at places where I was without being invited. I broke up with him in May 2024, right after graduation. He didn't take it well. He begged me to reconsider, said he'd change, promised things would be different. But I'd made up my mind. I needed to move on. The job in Denver was perfect timing. It got me out of Boulder, away from Tyler, and gave me a fresh start. I moved in July, found an apartment in Capitol Hill, and started my new life. For the first 2 months, everything was fine. Tyler texted me a few times, but I kept my responses brief, and eventually he stopped reaching out. I thought he'd moved on. In September, I started dating someone new. His name was Chris, and I'd met him through work. We'd been on 4 or 5 dates, nothing too serious yet, but I liked him. One Saturday night, Chris and I went to dinner at a restaurant in LODO. We had a great time, laughed a lot, and when he dropped me off at my apartment around 10 p.m., he kissed me goodnight. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of texts from Tyler. "So, you're dating someone now? Didn't take you long to replace me. I thought you said you needed time to focus on yourself. Guess that was just an excuse." I stared at my phone in confusion. How did Tyler know I was dating someone? I hadn't posted anything on social media. I'd been careful to keep my Instagram private, and Tyler wasn't a follower anymore. I didn't respond to his texts, I blocked his number. But that afternoon, I got texts from a number I didn't recognize. "You can block me all you want. I'll always find a way to reach you. You look happy with him. Enjoy it while it lasts." I screenshot the messages and blocked that number too. Monday morning, as I was getting ready for work, my iPhone buzzed with a notification I'd never seen before. "Airtag detected near you. This Airtag has been moving with you for some time." My stomach dropped. I knew immediately it was Tyler. I made the Airtag play a sound. The beeping was coming from my car. I went outside to my car, a 2020 Mazda 3 that I'd bought after graduation. I searched the interior first. Under the seats, in the glove box, in the center console, nothing. Then I got on my hands and knees and looked under the car. There, attached to the undercarriage near the rear wheel well with a strong magnet, was an Airtag. I pulled it off and sat on the curb, staring at it. Tyler had been tracking me. That's how he knew about Chris. He'd been watching my movements, seeing where I went, who I saw. But when did he put it there? I'd moved to Denver 2 months ago. Had he driven all the way from Boulder to plant this? Or had he done it before I moved? I checked the Find My app on my phone. The Airtag had a history. I could see a map of everywhere I'd been over the past several weeks. My apartment, my office, restaurants, Chris's apartment, the grocery store, every single place. I called the Denver Police Department and filed a report. An officer came to my apartment and took the Airtag as evidence. "How long were you with this ex-boyfriend?" he asked. 2 years. "And when did you break up?" 4 months ago, May. "Has he contacted you since the breakup?" I showed him the texts from Tyler and the unknown number. "We'll look into this," the officer said. "In the meantime, check your car and your belongings regularly, and document any contact he makes." I called my mom that night and told her everything. She was furious and wanted to drive to Boulder to confront Tyler herself. I convinced her not to. The next day, Detective Williams called me. She'd been assigned to my case and had contacted Tyler. "He admits to placing the Airtag on your car," she said. "He claims he did it because he was worried about your safety after you moved to a new city. That's not his concern anymore. We're not together." I agree. We're charging him with stalking. He'll have to appear in court. That should have been the end of it, but 2 days later, I got another notification. "Airtag detected near you." I was at work, sitting at my desk. The beeping was coming from my bag. I searched through my work bag and found an Airtag tucked into a small pocket on the side, a pocket I rarely used. I immediately called Detective Williams. "When could he have accessed your bag?" she asked. I thought back over the past few days. My bag was always with me, at work, at home, in my car. The only time it was out of my sight was the gym, I said. "I go to a gym near my apartment. I put my bag in a locker while I work out, but I don't always lock it." "What gym?" I told her the name. "Does your ex know you go to that gym?" I posted about it on Instagram a few weeks ago, before I made my account private. He could have seen it. Detective Williams said she'd request security footage from the gym. 2 days later, she called me back. "We have footage of Tyler entering the gym on Monday evening. He didn't check in at the front desk. He walked straight to the locker room area, looked around, and left 5 minutes later. He was carrying a backpack when he entered, but not when he left. So he drove 2 hours from Boulder to Denver to put an Airtag in my gym bag." Appears so. We're issuing a warrant for his arrest. 2 counts of stalking. Tyler was arrested at his apartment in Boulder the next day. He was released on bail with a no-contact order and a GPS ankle monitor. But here's where it gets worse. The prosecutor told me that during the search of Tyler's apartment, they found a notebook. Pages and pages of notes about me, my schedule, my routines, places I went regularly, the names of my coworkers, including Chris, my new address in Denver. Tyler had been obsessively documenting my life for months. They also found 5 more Airtags in his apartment, unused, still in the packaging. The prosecutor said Tyler had been planning to continue tracking me. The 2 he'd already placed were just the beginning. At the preliminary hearing, Tyler's lawyer tried to argue that the notebook was just Tyler processing his emotions after the breakup, that the Airtags were for his own personal use, that his client had never threatened me. But the judge saw it for what it was: stalking, obsession, a pattern of behavior that showed Tyler couldn't let go. Tyler was indicted on 2 counts of stalking. His trial is scheduled for next month. In the meantime, I've had to completely change my life. I moved to a different apartment in a different neighborhood. I changed gyms. I deactivated all my social media accounts. I bought a dash cam for my car and a doorbell camera for my apartment. I broke things off with Chris, not because I wanted to, but because I was terrified Tyler would do something to him. Chris understood, but it still hurt. I check my car every single day for tracking devices. I bought a Bluetooth scanner that detects Airtags, and I use it constantly. My therapist says I'm experiencing symptoms of PTSD, hypervigilance, anxiety, difficulty sleeping. She says it's common for stalking victims. The worst part is the feeling that I'm never alone. Even when I am physically alone, I wonder if Tyler is watching somehow. If there's another tracker I haven't found. Another way he's monitoring me. My lawyer says that if Tyler is convicted, he'll likely get probation and a permanent restraining order. Maybe some jail time, but probably not much since it's a first offense and he didn't physically harm me. But that doesn't make me feel safe, because I know that in Tyler's mind, I belong to him, and a restraining order is just a piece of paper. I'm 23 years old. I should be excited about my new job, my new city, my new life. Instead, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, checking for threats, scanning my belongings for tracking devices. Tyler took that from me, my sense of safety, my trust in others, my ability to enjoy the present without fear, all because he couldn't accept that our relationship was over. All because a piece of technology that cost $29 made it easy for him to invade my life without my knowledge. I don't know what will happen at Tyler's trial. I don't know if I'll ever feel truly safe again. But I know one thing for certain. I'll never underestimate how dangerous obsession can be. And I'll never take my privacy for granted again. Because I learned the hard way that the person who once claimed to love you can become the person you fear most. And sometimes, all it takes is a tiny tracking device for them to turn your life into a nightmare.